Whitebeard has left a massive impact upon the world of One Piece. He was the rival to the Pirate King and the ruler of the era following Roger's death. Whitebeard is regarded as the strongest man in the world, and he was the adoptive father of Podcast D Ace, one of the most terrifying pirates to ever set sail on the seas of One Piece. Whitebeard has etched his legacy into the hearts of many fans. He is a fan favorite character for several reasons. He has been influential throughout nearly a century of events in the story, marking the transition of multiple eras. His motivations have always been sympathetic, as his dreams and aspirations are admirable and his actions are understandable throughout the story. Oda expertly crafted a very complex character via very limited appearances, leaving a lasting impression upon all of us, and even after 15 years, his death in the manga is just as impactful today as it continues to awe-inspire fans as they appreciate the legacy of Whitebeard. In this video, I want to delve into what makes Whitebeard such an incredible character. I'll be exploring everything from his unique appearance to his personality, as well as diving into his past and all of his appearances within the manga. I'll also talk about where Oda had sourced inspiration for the character of Whitebeard, along with his relationships with several different characters, and the intriguing parallels that exist between Whitebeard and Blackbeard. So without further delay, let's begin my complete breakdown and analysis of the strongest man in the world, Whitebeard. Edward Newgate, better known as Whitebeard, was born on the island of Sphinx. His early life was marked by poverty and hardship, which is unlike many of his fellow pirates. Growing up as an orphan in a war-torn area had instilled in him a strong desire to protect his homeland. His exceptional size and strength were evident from a very early age, as it had led him to becoming a pirate while still young to support his village with the money that he had earned. We know very little about Whitebeard's earliest years as a pirate, other than the fact that he had made his way through several pirate crews until finding his place on the most feared and powerful crew in the world, which of course was the Rocks Pirates. He was responsible for recruiting Kaido while the latter was on Hachinozu, and he had taken part in the epic battle at God Valley, which eventually saw the defeat of Rocks D Xebec and the rise of Monkey D Garp and Gol D Roger. After the fall of the Rocks Pirates, Whitebeard went on to form his own crew, the Whitebeard Pirates. The crew was made up of orphans and outcasts, but quickly expanded thanks to Whitebeard's willingness to accept anyone, regardless of their background, as long as their nature and personality were to his liking. This inclusivity extended even to different species, such as fishmen, despite the stigma that had existed against them. Whitebeard's adventures with his crew took him across the Grand Line, from the isolated land of Wano to the depths of Fishman Island. Whitebeard fled from and battled countless marines, including the renowned marine hero Garp. However, nobody had posed as much of a challenge to him than the Pirate King Gol D Roger, who he had both befriended and had treated as a rival. Following the death of Roger, Whitebeard was regarded as the strongest man in the world. While he never reached Laugh Tale, he was considered to be the Pirate King of his era, reigning until his fall during the Battle of Marineford. These milestones mark the basic outline of Whitebeard's long life, but each step reveals more about his character. His early experiences of suffering and loss had shaped his compassionate nature, particularly towards children and those that were in need. His time with the Rocks Pirates and their ultimate downfall had reinforced his belief that the bonds of companionship within a crew were crucial to its success. A crew of individuals with no care for one another was doomed to fail. His battles with Roger and Garp had cemented his confidence in his own strength, thus affirming his belief that while there were those who could match him, none could confidently claim to be stronger than him. His declaration of war at Marineford and his subsequent death had demonstrated just how far Whitebeard was willing to go for those that he had considered to be his family. These points offer just a surface level analysis of what makes Whitebeard so special, with much more that lies beneath his character. So to truly understand the depth of his character, we need to expand our horizons, but now looking at all of the inspirations that Oda had taken in when he was designing the character of Whitebeard. The inspiration behind Whitebeard as a character can be drawn from two main sources: Edward Teach, the real-world pirate better known as Blackbeard, and the 12th century Japanese warrior monk Benkei. Benkei is a somewhat legendary figure figure with many records about him blending fact and fiction. He was known to be a fierce child capable of fighting fully grown men from an early age. By the age of 17, Benkei stood over 2 meters tall. This was 1 foot taller than the average man of his time. His height had become an embellishment in stories that were written about him, with some describing him to be as tall as 5 men stacked on top of one another. Benkei trained in monasteries and he had learned to wield a naginata, the same weapon that Whitebeard is famous for. The most direct inspiration that Oda seems to have taken from Benkei, however, comes from his death. When Benkei and his lord were surrounded by enemies, Benkei stood guard on a bridge in front of the castle's main gate while his lord committed seppuku. The attacking soldiers were so intimidated by Benkei that they dared not cross the bridge, and any who did were swiftly killed by the terrifying monk. Realizing that nobody would dare to fight him in close quarters combat, the soldiers decided to shoot Benkei with arrows from across the bridge. Long after he should have fallen, the soldiers nervously approached the still standing Benkei, only to find him dead with dozens of arrows stuck in his body. He had died standing, protecting the bridge even in death. It is clear from these comparisons that Whitebeard's design had taken heavy inspiration from this historical figure, but as I mentioned at the start, Benkei is not the only person Oda had drawn inspiration from, which now brings us to Edward Teach and the parallels between Whitebeard and Blackbeard. The real-world Blackbeard is arguably the most famous pirate in existence, as he has appeared in several stories, TV shows, games, and even movies. Blackbeard's legacy has made him a household name unmatched by any other real-world pirate. In One Piece, this iconic figure is split into 2 characters, both Whitebeard and Blackbeard. This division is even reflected in their names, with Edward from Edward Teach becoming Whitebeard's first name, with Teach becoming Blackbeard's last name. The symbolism in their names further emphasizes this parallel. Linguistically, White is associated with purity and goodness, while Black is often linked to the opposite, as seen in terms like whitelist and blacklist. Narratively, the contrast between Whitebeard and Blackbeard is stark, as Whitebeard embodies honor, loyalty, and the protection of his crew as he fights for his family and follows a strict code of ethics. Blackbeard contrastingly represents ambition, betrayal, and chaos. Teach is willing to sacrifice anything and anyone in order to achieve his goals, even betraying his family in order to gain more power. This dichotomy is further highlighted by their devil fruits. Whitebeard wields the Gura Gura no Mi, which symbolizes his ability to shake the world's foundations, both literally and metaphorically. This represents his moral authority and influence. Conversely, Blackbeard wields the Yami Yami no Mi, allowing him to control darkness and absorb powers. This reflects his insidious and consuming nature. When Blackbeard eventually usurps the Gura Gura no Mi during Marineford, it signifies his newfound ability to shake the world's foundations, thus marking a pivotal shift in the balance of power. Whitebeard's death at the hands of Blackbeard had marked the end of an era, and it had heralded the dawn of a new generation. Whitebeard had been delaying this inevitable shift for longer than anyone had expected. Even in his final years, Whitebeard remained a formidable force, but not even Haki can defy the march of time. Both Garp and Rayleigh, along with Whitebeard himself, acknowledged that their advanced age had significantly diminished their strengths in comparison to their prime years. The visual cues of Whitebeard's declining health were evident from the medical equipment which he relied upon. Marco's comment at Marineford about Whitebeard's weakening state was underscored when Whitebeard failed to detect or dodge Squad's attack. This was further highlighted by his inability to use Conqueror's Haki to save Ace on the execution platform, a Haki which is now essential in all top-level fights in One Piece. Despite his diminishing strength, Whitebeard was remarkably accepting of his need to pass the torch to the young generation. At Marineford, he acknowledged this when he said, "I am only one man with one heart. Call me a demon, call me a monster, but I can't be the strongest forever. In the mind of Whitebeard, the future had laid with his adopted son Podcastee Ace. I've done a full character analysis on Ace which I highly recommend that all of you check out, as Whitebeard's belief in Ace as a leader for the next generation had echoed Shanks' faith in Luffy. However, unlike Shanks, who merely lost an arm to save Luffy, Whitebeard couldn't save Ace, and he ended up paying the price with his life. Whitebeard's strength was always monstrous, but it never bred overconfidence, even though he sometimes gave off that impression. Despite his meeting with Ace, he displayed complete confidence in his ability to weather any storm that Blackbeard might cause, based entirely on his identity as Whitebeard. Yet despite this front, he was very cautious about Blackbeard's threat, even warning Ace not to pursue him after Thatch's death. Whitebeard's reaction to Oden's death at Kaido's hands also demonstrated his capacity for rational decision making. He refused to seek revenge against Kaido, understanding the inevitable loss of life that it would bring to his crew. This decision showed his ability to maintain a cool head when others might succumb to impulsivity. By the time that his crew had learned of Oden's death, it was too late to gain anything from attacking Kaido besides revenge. In contrast, the war at Marineford had a clear material purpose, which was to save Ace's life. Whitebeard was willing to go to war for a living son, but would not be willing to throw away the lives of his crew for a dead family member. A central theme of Whitebeard's character is his concept of family. Unlike many pirates who sought treasure and power, Whitebeard valued his crew as his family above all else. He took in many orphans and outcasts, giving them a place where they belonged. This paternal bond defined his leadership and endeared him to his crew, who would loyally follow him to the ends of the earth. Beyond his crewmates, Whitebeard's relationships with his contemporaries further illustrate his character. For example, his complex relationship with Gol D Roger had showcased a mutual respect for each other despite their rivalry. Roger even entrusted Whitebeard with the knowledge of the One Piece and the true history of the world. This scene had demonstrated Whitebeard's resolve in sticking to his own dream, turning down the opportunity to learn about the mysteries of the world in favor of his family. However, no character tests the boundaries of Whitebeard's ideology more than his former crewmate Blackbeard. The honor and loyalty which Whitebeard stands for is in contrast to Blackbeard's deceitful and self-serving nature. This highlights the moral and thematic stakes within One Piece. Blackbeard's actions lead directly to the Marineford War, which impacts Whitebeard's fate and underscores the shifting power dynamics in the pirating world. This conflict marks the transition into the chaotic era experienced post-time skip. Whitebeard's motivations are driven by a profound sense of family and loyalty. His courageous and sacrificial actions and his stark contrast to Blackbeard collectively enrich his character and cement the legacy of Whitebeard in the world of One Piece. Whitebeard's most significant and final battle had taken place during the Marineford War. Despite his age and the numerous injuries that he had sustained, Whitebeard had fought valiantly against admirals, warlords, pacifista, and the full might of the world government. Tragically, he was unable to save Ace, who was killed by Admiral Akainu. In his final moments, Whitebeard unleashed his full power, causing unprecedented destruction and leaving a lasting impact upon the world. Whitebeard's death had marked the end of an era, and it created a significant power vacuum in the pirate world. His final words and actions continue to inspire his crew and many others, as it had solidified his legacy as one of the greatest pirates to have ever lived. After his death, the territories which Whitebeard had protected had come under threat, and the balance of power in the new world had shifted dramatically. Whitebeard was the linchpin holding an empire together, and when he had fallen, so did this empire, as it had plunged the world into a new era, similar to what had happened 25 years ago when Gol D Roger was executed. However, Whitebeard's ideals and the sense of family that he had instilled into his crew had endured, as this had influenced the next generation of pirates, including Luffy. Whitebeard's legacy is one of immense power, compassion, and an unyielding desire to protect those that he had considered to be his family. Whitebeard's life and his death had profoundly shaped the world of One Piece, and it had left a huge mark on its history and its characters. Whitebeard remains to be one of the most popular and interesting characters in the entire series, and this is for good reason. He truly is set apart from a lot of the other characters in the story, as he not only had a lot of experience as a pirate, but he held a great deal of influence throughout multiple different eras of the One Piece world. We've now reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What are your thoughts about the character of Whitebeard? Were you as emotional as I was when you had first read or watched his death during the Marineford War? I look forward to reading all of your thoughts. If there's anything that I've forgotten to mention about the character of Whitebeard, then let me know by leaving a comment under this video. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this one, and I cannot wait to see you in my next One Piece character analysis video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.